Everybody, today I want to talk about such an important topic, and even though the title or the subject of this mini video might be the best and worst way to eat a raw food diet, really what it should be is the smartest way to eat a raw food diet, and that's what I want to talk about today. When I say the smartest way, I mean what's going to give us everything we need from a nutritional standpoint without creating the excess that happens from too much. You see, what I've been talking about for years when it comes to health is, and the problem with, let's say, for example, animal products. Animal products, here's the thing, folks. You can get nutrition from everything, but you want to make sure you're getting enough, but not too much. Now, it's often common that people do too much. And when you do too much, your body takes what it needs and it has to get rid of the excess. And that's where the energy is used in getting rid of the excess nutrients or other waste products that's left over from the food. And I say waste products because if your body can't use it, it's a waste. So if you're taking it too much, you're creating a tremendous amount of need for the body to work more than it should have to. And it's probably the most common thing out there. People are overeating. And here's the next thing is eating too little is not necessarily not eating enough. It means not getting the nutrition from the food that you are eating. So it's really too little nutrients. It's not too little food. There are some people in the world that might eat too little calories, but for the most part, they're eating too little nutrient-based foods. So they're eating the calories, they're just not getting enough out of the calories. And those are the two things to look at. So the smartest way to eat any diet is to make sure you're getting enough nutrients while not having to overeat to get them. And those are the things that's going to keep you healthy from both ends of this. Because a lot of people run into a problem. They eat way too much food and it has too little nutrition. And then there's the people that eat smaller amounts of food, but it doesn't have enough of the nutrients. Now, when it comes to the raw food diet, there's many different ways to eat a raw food diet. And when I say raw food diet, I mean no cooked food, all raw, or live food, as you want to say. And then when we look at cooked foods, what's the problem with cooked food? Well, there's a lot of advantages to raw food. The enzymes you're getting help the body digest more easier. And it's just, the food is alive. But when you're cooking food, the opposite of that is true. You're destroying the enzymes. You're often taking out if you cook it the wrong way, you're taking out much of the water in the foods, thus dehydrating the food. So you can actually cook in a dehydrator where you're keeping the enzymes but taking out the water, and that's not a preferable way to prepare your food. So I believe if we have the food as fresh as possible, that's going to be best, depending what the food is. Now, there's labels that have been given to different ways of eating certain ways. Natural hygiene, 80-10-10, nutritarian, Hippocrates' way of eating. And depending what you want to label yourself or where you want to be, so be it. I'm never into labels. I mean, I have a tremendous amount of compassion for the animals. And if you think about the way we eat and meeting those two needs by eating small amounts of food but getting the nutrients we actually need, you would think, well, if I include a small amount of animal products in my diet, I would accomplish that goal, because animal products are loaded in certain nutrients that fruits and vegetables might not be loaded in. So why not just eat animals? Well, along with that comes a tremendous amount of toxicity. First of all, there's other reasons, but I'm going to get into this one. There's a tremendous amount of toxicity in the animals. So when you're consuming those nutrients, see, even though all foods have nutrients, some foods have more of a nutrition than something else. That's why you should eat a big variety of different foods, not just one food. If you just eat oranges all day, or if you just eat cow all day, either way, you're limiting what you can get. You should eat a wide variety, but you want to give your body what it needs by using the least amount of energy to have to get rid of the waste or the toxins that are left over. So, in my opinion, animal products would be crossed off the list of even food we should consider putting in our bodies currently from a nutritional standpoint, because there's way too much toxicity coming from the animals we consume as well. The animals have been corrupted in the land animals, because it's just the factory farming, the food that they're fed, just absolutely not good for us. And it's just, some people might say, what if they have their own animal and they know what they're feeding the animal? That might make it a little different. The fish, which from a nutritional standpoint meets many nutritional elements that you can't really get in abundance from fruits and vegetables. However, the ocean is so toxic today that the fish is coming from the ocean is bad. So some people might say, well, if I can get good, clean fish or raise my own animals and feed my own animals, why wouldn't I just eat animals? Well, there's a more important reason, and that's a reason of compassion, of eating our creators, creatures, and you might think there's not an element of health and wellness to anything beyond nutrition, but there certainly is. And I don't want to consume, kill, or murder any living creature. And that might not be important to you, but it should be, because it ultimately ties into your health. Because I do believe there's other components of health other than just our nutrition. And I don't want to support, I don't want to in any way consume these products. And thankfully, it makes the choice easy now, because there's so many toxicity connected to it. And knowing I can get everything I need on a vegetarian-based diet without needing those things and risking my health from the toxins, also my beliefs, my compassion on animals and the lives of other animals. So I'm not eating those. Now, from a vegetarian or health standpoint, what foods are going to give us what we need without making us have to overeat to get them? And when I first got into eating this way of a raw food diet, I was eating the Hippocrates Health Institute way of eating, which consumed a lot of legume sprouts, a lot of microgreens, which are seeds, nuts and seeds sprouted, some to a way where they become almost a vegetable through a green microgreen like sunflower sprouts, and some fermented foods, some sea vegetables. From a nutritional standpoint, I still believe to this day that they put together a program that gives our body, from a nutritional standpoint, everything we need to thrive, and at the same time not needing to eat a tremendous amount to get what we need. However, we got to look at the goals of these particular diets. And the goal of the Hippocrates diet was originally to help people that have been stricken with disease. And because of that, Hippocrates or the people that promote Hippocrates diet have found a connection between certain diseases and sugar, even natural sugars. So for people with diseases, they limit or exclude all sugar, including fruit sugar, until at least the person overcomes their disease that they believe is fed by sugar, and they don't see a difference between fruit sugar or processed sugar. So I have not been stricken with these diseases that are sugar related, so there's no reason for me to exclude natural sugars and things, natural sugars that were found in fruits. So there's another type of diet, which is called the fruitarian diet, or the natural hygiene type diet, which is getting you most of your food from raw fruits and vegetables, specifically fruits, being the most natural food we would eat, the most natural food we're connected to, and just makes the most sense. If we were stuck on a stranded island with beautiful fruit trees, we'd be eating the fruit off the trees. We wouldn't be thinking about sprouting our food. We certainly wouldn't be thinking about eating the animals. We'd be looking at the delicious fruits there. And I transformed from going to an all Hippocrates diet to eating a good amount of fruit in my diet. Some questions would arise if too much fruit was no good or so on. And we all have to look at our personal goals. I teach people how to grow fruit trees and grow gardens and grow wild edible greens. And I always tell them when we start our growing process, we should do it based on what our goal is. Somebody who's 80 years old with cancer has a different goal than somebody who's 18 years old and on a high school football team. There's different goals when it comes to this. Yes, ultimately, we all want to avoid disease. We want to create longevity, and we want to live a healthy life and build a good foundation. But there's different ways to get there. So when we're thinking about what diet is best for us, we want to think about our particular goals and our challenges and the situation we're in, and where we're living has part of that to do with that goal. So when we think about this, I would say, for example, being 100% raw, somebody living in Minnesota where it's cold all year pretty much, they might be better off eating some soup in the wintertime instead of some a raw food candy bar to maintain their label of 100% raw. There's not one really bad food that's bad for everyone, no matter what, under any circumstance. I think eating animals is a bad choice because you're literally killing or supporting the killing of a living creature. From a nutritional standpoint, you can source out and get high quality, low toxin nutrition from animals. But it's not easy to do that, but you can. It's becoming more common these days, but I still don't think that's a wise way to go. And it's all studies prove that the nutrition that comes from animals shortens lifespan. It doesn't lengthen lifespan. And so what is the best way to do this? And so what I have found is the Hippocrates diet lifestyle with some fruits, if you don't have a disease that's sugar related, would be the way to go. Now, how much also depends on each individual. It depends on where we're living. It depends on our size and weight. It depends on our activity level. It depends on all these different things. Does a person need to be 100% raw? Does a person need to be 100% vegan? Does a person need to take supplements or not? We all have our own individual situation of what we can get available to us, accessibility, and how we could do it. But we want to research this out and also be willing to change. And here's what I'm finding. People often ask me my age, and I find it amusing that some people would believe that or make a comment to say, I think recently my friend John and my friend Kailash and I were in a video, and so we all been raw at 30 years, and somebody said, oh, I thought you 90 years total. I thought you were interviewing the guy who's 90 years old, meaning me. So I think, I don't think I look close to 90 years old, but some people do, so be it. But regardless, we want to do, what's best. So for me, I am in my 50s though. And as I was saying, there's a difference between an 80-year-old and a 17-year-old. Well, there's a difference between a 30-year-old and a 50-year-old in terms of what our goals should be. And as I'm looking to adjust these goals, I come up with the Nutritarian diet, which is by Joel Fuhrman. And the Nutritarian diet says our protein needs will go up as we get older, not because we need more protein, but because the body has a harder time getting the protein from the protein we're eating. So for that reason, we would need more protein. Now, when it comes to breaking down food, there's always been in the raw food world pretty much fat and protein and sugars. You know, so some people are on a high-fat raw food diet. Some people are on a higher sugar raw food diet. But there aren't too many people on a high-protein raw food diet. There are some, but where do you get your protein from is a common question that vegans and vegetarians get all the time. And it's quite an interesting question because if you're not doing raw, if you're eating cooked food, it's very easy to get protein. As a matter of fact, it's a better protein than you're getting from an animal based diet. And if you do it the right way, if you're eating cooked food, the reason why it's easier to get it eating cooked food than raw food is because the food becomes concentrated. So now you're getting more of the food you're able to eat, as in terms of if it's a whole fresh food raw, it's not concentrated. So for example, I have a moringa tree and I eat moringa leaves. And if I just eat the leaves, the nutrition in there per leaf is not going to be as compact as if I was drying the leaf, because I'm taking the water out and I'm making, which is important to have the water in there, but I'm making it more nutritionally dense per poundage or per amount of the food. So it's not to get confused, it's just to think about all these different things. Now, sadly, most people that are eating cooked food are not eating the high quality foods. They're not eating with wisdom. Most people eating a vegetarian diet are on a junk food vegan diet. They're giving the vegan diet or the vegetarian diet a bad name, so to say. But it's very easy to get enough protein. It's very easy to get enough nutrition and everything else on a cooked food diet. Now, on a raw food diet, is it possible or is it easy? To be 100% raw and get the nutrients our body needs, it's definitely possible. I believe to the Hippocrates way of eating, the Hippocrates diet way of eating, or there's another one called the Hallelujah Acres diet, but they include a little bit of cooked food. It's very possible. However, how practical is it that somebody's going to be strict and stick to sprouting all the time and doing things like this, which I don't want to say it's more time consuming, but it takes space and time and something we need to do. So it's practical, it's possible, but I don't know how practical it is for everyone to continue to consume a diet where we're getting the nutrition we need. Now there comes to the fasting and cleansing diets and things like this. The more food we have in our diet, the better off we're going to get, or better chance we're going to get what we need. The more food we exclude in terms of volume or variety, now we're looking into, we have to be even more careful to make sure we know what we're getting. The body's amazing and can deal with a lot for a very long time, but eventually it will catch up to people. It's just like sleep. Probably the two of the things I teach you the most is about sleep and exercise, which are so extremely important. But it's something that will catch up to you. You can miss a night of sleep. You can miss a week of sleep, but it's going to catch up. It's doing the damage while it's taking place, even though you don't feel it. Same thing with exercise. You can go years without exercising, and you might not feel it, but you're doing the damage every time you miss being active and exercising. Well, when it comes to food, it's the same way. So we want to continue to stay up on this and make sure we're getting the best we can get. I think, from what I'm seeing out there, we need to get the highest quality food no matter what we eat. And we're starting to see the examples of people that have been, I wrote my book in 2000, The Raw Life, where I interviewed people that have been eating a raw food diet for a long time. And some of them are still thriving today. Some of them have died. What was the problem? Some of them tried adding more cooked food. Some of them tried adding animal products to their diet. Why and where did somebody succeed and some of them didn't? And again, there are other factors other than just diet alone. However, what I'm seeing and interviewing a lot of people, I see there's 4 or 5 people out there that have seemed to have success on a long-term diet, vegan diet, that seem to have success. And it's the things we will, in the Real Life Health Tree, take a look at more closely, and we should. So one of them is Dr. Fred Bisci. Dr. Fred Bisci is, I would consider somebody who is sets the ground for me in terms of the way we should live our lives in every area, and is very compassionate for animals. He's been eating a raw vegan diet for over 60 years. The man is 95 years old. And I want to say, no matter what somebody's doing, if they make it to 95, something they're doing is right. But I can't say that because there are exceptions. I know people that do things that are really not healthy from a logical sense, but they've made it to 95. So I would have to consider those exceptions. I don't consider Dr. Bisci an exception because the things I see him doing make sense in terms of not overeating, getting exercise, putting importance on resting and fasting and cleansing, and just a brilliant man, especially when it comes to dealing with people who have diseases. He's been successful eating a vegetarian, vegan diet, even raw food, long term. And I'm not saying these are the only people that have been successful, but these are the people that are still out there hanging around of the people I've interviewed in my book over 20 years ago. Then there's some more I'll talk about in the future, but there's, and I'll talk some of the ones that weren't successful. So stay tuned and subscribe to this channel so you can see those. There's a man named Doug Graham who I interviewed recently, and I interview often. He has a diet called the 80-10-10 diet, which is 100% raw. It's close to the natural hygiene way of eating, but he breaks it down in numbers, saying we should get 80% of our diet from carbohydrates, including meaning fruit, and 10% from protein and 10% from fat. And that's what he has broken it down to. And after all these years, he appears to be successful long-term at eating this way. He's into teaching people how to fast, and he has his way of eating, which is, and all these ways are pretty different than one or the other. Another person I interviewed who's been doing this a long time is Lou Corona. Lou Corona has been eating a raw vegan diet for a long time and appears to be doing great. And he eats more of a higher fat raw food diet and focus on a lot of enzymes and enzymatic foods and doing wonderful. Appears to be doing great. Now I'm going to mention two other people that are eating mostly raw food, but not all raw, that appear to be doing great also. One of them is Joel Fuhrman. Joel Fuhrman has a diet that he calls a nutritarian diet, and I just did an interview with him. I highly recommend people see. And what I appreciate about Dr. Fuhrman is he's looking at people not just young on a raw food diet or just on a diet at all, but also what happens when they get older. He has a tremendous concern or study for what's going to happen when people are older eating a certain way and the changes people need to make while eating this way. And he as it's possible to eat an all raw diet, it's easier and safer to include some cooked foods like beans and mushrooms to complete the raw food diet and make it just safer, more practical, and easier. And I can't disagree with him because there are some people that are able, willing to, and want to have that label of all raw, like I have been, but doing the extra work to do that. And then there's his way, which is more practical and easier. And that's the way I would recommend people do it, because it is more practical, easier, and it's better to be consistent and not be 100% than to go back and forth from good to bad, good to bad. But he's been successful. He's in his, Dr. Bisci's is in his 70s. Lou Corona's in his 70s. Doug Graham's in his 70s. Fred Bisci's in his 90s. Fred Bisci's in his 90s. Lou Corona's in his 70s. Doug Graham's in his 70s. Joel Fuhrman's in his 70s. And then there's Brian Clement. Brian Clement, who promotes the Ann Wigmore style of eating, the Hippocrates Health Institute diet, is in his 70s, I believe, as well. Appears to be doing great. Another person I interviewed many years ago in my book. His focus is really helping people who have already gotten disease, how they can overcome that disease. Doctors have pretty much given up on these people. And through the Hippocrates diet, he's made that happen. So all of these particular diets I just mentioned, or these people I just mentioned, promote something that's worked for them, proven long term. Now, there are some others, and I'll mention them in other videos. And there are some others that done some things that obviously were wrong and they got sick or they died. But these were the people that have been successful. So you want to look at what they all have in common. And these are the things we need to talk about, what they all have in common. And for the sake of this video, I'm going to end it soon, but we're going to talk more in future videos about what all these people that have been successful, these 5 people that I mentioned, what their diets have in common and what their diets have in difference, and what diet is best for you and your goals. And when I say your goals, your environment, your weight, your history, your health, your disease, and we'll look at that. So stay tuned for future videos where we compare these 5 people who have seemed to be successful. And I'm going to have more interviews with people that are following one of these 5 ways of eating. And 3 of them are all raw. Fred Bisci, Doug Graham, and the Hippocrates is all raw. And then, Lou Corona's all raw. So 4 of them are all raw. And the Nutritarian one has some cooked food in it. So we'll look at some more in the future, but these are the ones we're going to discuss and look at. I think they're all how could I say, they're all possible to meet our goals with all of these diets. But I want to look at and consider what's practical and realistic for most people, and more important, for yourself, because who cares about most people? You won't care about yourself. What's more practical for yourself that you're going to do this long term? So all of these have been proven to work if you stick to it. But if it's not practical to stick to it, then how are you going to stick to it? All right? So we'll look at these in the future. Thank you for watching. And everybody, watch the interviews I have with all these different people and make up your decisions, what's going to work for yourself. And I'm here trying to set the example and do the experimenting and seeing as well. And I'm going to have interviews with these people coming up as well. Until then, everybody, thank you for watching. Have a great day and a great raw life.
Nature's wealth, good for your health. This is the raw life health show.